End of another long and very successful day at Tiny House headquarters. I'm about to pull down my wind turbine because, yes, this is the long-awaited video where we modify the wind turbine and see if we can increase its output. I've decided it's time to bring the wind turbine down. I've had a whole lot of people asking me over the last few weeks, when are you going to do the modifications to the wind turbine? Well, tonight there's no wind, so there's no point in having it up there if there's no wind. I'm going to bring it down right now and we're going to put some new magnets inside to augment its performance. So the first thing that I have to do when I'm taking down the wind turbine is, of course, pull the pin and drop the tower, but I've got to put the washing line away so that I can bring the mast down, and so the head falls in that area over there, handy to the workshop door for any tools I might need. So I'm going to put you out of the way somewhere, like up here, and you can watch me see how I do this. These are the tools that I use for bringing it down. In my right hand I've got the jack pole, and in my left hand here I've got a 2-ton cable winch. It doesn't need 2 tons to help pull this thing down, but that's the size they come in. So all I have to do is release this pin, remove the random things that I've got hanging on here, because it's all about growing around here. We've got plants everywhere where they'll catch the sunshine, and I'll have to put those in a safe place before I start. So the jack pole goes into a socket, and one of the mast's guy ropes becomes the lowering rope. The other 2 guy ropes have been disconnected, and now I'm getting the pin ready to take out. I won't remove the pin until I've got everything connected, because of course if a big gust of wind was suddenly to come up and the pin was out, the whole thing could come crashing down. So loosen the pin, get it ready to take out, connect up the 2-ton cable winch to the mainstay and take up the slack, and then I can just give it a push with my hands and the mast will start to tip, and it will just start to put pressure onto the cable winch, and I can lower it the rest of the way with the cable winch with no risk at all. Trust me, if this was dangerous, I would be down in my concrete bunker down the end of the street with all the neighbours. When I do anything dangerous, I gather everybody into my concrete bunker and we watch it all on the monitors while I get my clone to do the dangerous work. You'll see the clone being built in one of my earlier videos. I'm not going to tell you which one it is, you'll just have to go and look. If it wasn't for the YouTube safety police who randomly roam the comments section of all the videos, I wouldn't have had to build the concrete bunker down the end of the street and gather all the neighbours up and watch everything on the monitor while I get my clone to do the work, because I could just do as I like. But because of the YouTube safety police, I have to take all these precautions. In our part of the world, evening lasts about 15 minutes. Honestly, in the lower latitudes of the southern hemisphere, we go from afternoon to night in about 15 minutes. So in the time it's taken me to get this down, the security lights have come on. It's a little bit too dark for me to film, so I'm going to have to walk away and leave it until morning. And here we are in the morning. Now this morning I've just plugged my camera into my selfie stick, and I've just remembered now that I'm editing the video that my selfie stick, when I'm using the little remote button on the handle, won't let me record sound. So this little clip got made without sound. Sorry, nothing I can do about that. So I'm just going to have to narrate over the top of it. And what I'm going to tell you is how I'm going to remove the fan, and then I'm going to remove the generator part and leave the body hanging there. I'll be using these tools. These are the cheap tools that came with the Chinese wind turbine. They're perfectly adequate. And I'm going to be using the large Allen key for taking the rotor off. I'll be using one of the small Allen keys for removing the 4 screws that hold the body. And then I'll remove the... And then that tool on the right won't be used at all. That's the one that takes the blades on and off of the hub. So here we go. The first thing to do is just pop off the plastic cover. That's done by releasing the clips underneath. On the 5-bladed prop cover there are 5 clips to undo. On the 3-bladed there are 3 clips to undo. So remove that, put it in a safe place, grab the large Allen key, and now we're going to remove the rotor. And because we're turning the shaft, not the nut, we have to turn it the opposite way. Instead of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, it'll be righty-loosey, lefty-tighty. So there we go, turning it to the right, and I'm actually loosening it because I'm winding the shaft back down inside the nut. Really easy to work on. So the blade and hub assembly can get lifted off and put down over here somewhere where it won't get kicked, knocked, driven over or stood on, because it's a fairly well balanced piece of machinery and I really don't want any upsets. Now I'm going to select the 5mm Allen key, and the 5mm Allen key is going to remove the actual stator, and from the stator I'll be able to push the rotor assembly out. Now once you've removed those 4 screws, there's an O-ring that goes all the way around, and you must make sure that that O-ring stays in the correct position on the outside of the bolts. Here's the rotor sitting inside the stator. It runs fairly close to the coils. The closer the better. Now you can see the magnets on the outside of the stator. We can't fit any extra magnets on the outside of the stator, but we can fit magnets, so long as they're no more than 5mm thick, to both sides of the rotor. So you just pull the rotor out. That's only held in there by the magnetic force, so you just push against the magnets.
Now, I would like to pay tribute to... So right now I would like to pay tribute to the patience and the kindness of all those people
who were really excited that I was going to be doing this project, and have waited patiently for several months while I firstly get the thing up the pole, because I've been very busy doing other things, and secondly while they wait for me to get my baseline figures. Now the baseline figures are nothing exciting. The most I got out of this thing at any stage was a 4 amp charge. Now, the 4 amp charge is nothing spectacular. It was occurring at the stage where the blades were beating the standing wave from the previous wave as the whole thing revolves. Because what happens when you've got a 5-bladed turbine and it's rotating in this direction, for example, the distance between the blades is closer than on a 3-blade turbine, and as you can see here. So because they're closer together, when the thing is revolving faster, it means that the blade comes round and hits the wave of dirty air that's been left by the previous blade, whereas on a 3-blade that happens at a much higher speed. So 5-blade, great for my garden where I've got a group of buildings and 2 or 3 really mature trees. So this type of configuration is going to go better in lower speed winds, whereas if you live on a yacht or the top of a hill or in a coastal area, you'll probably get much better results with a 3-blade. I did in fact order a new 3-blade hub from a Chinese supplier who I don't recommend dealing with. I bought it through eBay, but it's not eBay's fault. The problem with the Chinese supplier was that even though I ordered a 3-blade hub, they sent me a 5-blade, so I can't do anything with it. I gave them the option, silly me, to replace the hub with the correct one or give me a full refund, and they chose to give me the full refund. So now I've got to find another supplier and wait another 2 months to get the correct hub. So it will be coming down again, and I will be trying it out as a 3-blader, although I don't expect better results in my location. So you did see a few minutes ago that the stripping down and removal of the rotor didn't require any special tools. I could do it with a rudimentary tool pack that came with the turbine. The only other tools that I'm going to need for this are a texter to draw my little bits of information to explain what's going on, and a kid's compass. And why have I got a kid's compass? That's because I need to find out the polarity of each of these magnets so that I can duplicate that polarity with the new magnets that I'm going to fit to this face here. Let me show you the new magnets. Now, once again, from eBay, I bought a stack of high-grade neodymium magnets. I couldn't get the slightly curved type that they use here, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to be putting these magnets directly onto the face next to them. But of course they'll not want to stick to the face, they'll want to move towards the magnet, so I am going to have to give this thing a wipe down with some alcohol, and I'm going to adhesive to glue each of these in the correct place. Now, before we go any further, I want to show you in a close-up here how this rotor is marked all the way around with these dimples on both sides. And something else you'll see, if you look inside the grooves here, you can see that this rotor isn't made of one piece of steel. This rotor is made of a sandwich of many sheets of thin steel laminated together into a block. The reason they do this is to eliminate or vastly reduce what they call eddy currents. Eddy currents is the lines of magnetic flux that go from pole to pole in each magnet. If this was one solid block of metal, the eddy currents would be massive. So they have taken the opportunity to reduce that by making it like you would a transformer out of many laminations of steel, and that breaks up the eddy currents and means that you don't get so much cogging. So that's the feature of a very well-made appliance, that they haven't cut corners. They have used what appears to be best industrial practice. Now you'll see that this collar, which has been fitted over the shaft, has then been heavily swaged. You can see how it's deformed by the press that's come down here and pressed this at some insane amount of pressure to sandwich all these parts together. So what I need to do now is to identify the polarity of each magnet and mark either the positive or the negatives. I don't need to mark both, but I need to mark one or the other, and we're going to use the kid's compass for that. The north pole of any one of these magnets will of course attract the needle. This is the compass. You'll see the polarity changing as it's attracted to each alternating magnet. This one, for example, is attracting the north pole of the compass, so that's obviously the south pole. That's obviously a south pole magnet. So we'll put a little S on there, and then the next one is a north pole, south pole, north pole, south pole. So we're just going to mark each south pole so we know where we're at. Here we go. And I did get quite small magnets because I wasn't sure how much room I was going to have. These magnets are reasonably tiny but very powerful. I'm hoping that there's going to be enough room for me to fit each of these. So I'm going to devise a pattern now. I can't put them to the outside like this because they'll hit the coils as it goes round. They must be attached to either of these two faces. This is why we need the glue, because they want to. This configuration I think will be the most powerful. I'm going to do half the wheel, and then I'm going to pull the rotor away from my compass, and we'll see if one side of the wheel has more pull on the compass than the other. I'm expecting it will do, but this is just a chance for us to have a play with it and understand what's going on inside the turbine before I put the thing back up there again. Now, unfortunately, the magnetic flux on these powerful magnets doesn't run from end to end. It runs from face to face. That means that they're really quite unsuitable for what I'm doing here. But I've also found that on the net it's really hard to find a seller that tells you whether you have face magnetism or axial magnetism from end to end. So you may have to buy 2 or 3 lots of magnets to find the correct ones. You see, it's not the end that's attracting the needle, it's the face that attracts. I'll move this out of the way so we get a clear reading. See, here's the end of the magnet having little effect, but as soon as we look at the face of the magnet, that there's a dramatic attraction or repulsion to the face of the magnet, not to the ends. So these aren't the perfect kind of magnet for this project. But the thing is, it's easy for me to take the thing apart or put it back together again, so I'm going to try it with these anyway. I've just put one drop of super glue under each one of these. That's all it needs, because they're being pretty much held by their own magnetism onto the laminated steel rotor. But these are all of my north facings. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the south facing one on. I've just got to, you see, these are all attracting the needle, whereas this way up, this one is repelling the needle. So this is going to be, whoops, this is going to be the first of my south poles. And this is where it'll get just a little more likely to slip and slide. So I'm going to put these things on and hold it until the glue's dry. Okay, and on to the next. So as I say, not the perfect type of magnets. The magnetism is on the face. I really would have prepared it to, really would have preferred it to be on the ends, but it may have some effect. I'm going to take it back out, fit it to the machine, get it back up into the breeze, and I'll spend the next couple of days looking at the amp meter, watching the speed that it's turning in various wind strengths, and we'll just have a by the seat of my pants appraisal as to whether it has improved the performance or not. In the meantime, I'm going to be looking for the correct type of axial flux magnet to make sure that the strength is on the ends of the magnets and not on the face. We'll pull this thing down again and make the improvement when I can. So reassembly is just a simple matter of reversing the disassembly procedure. I want to put this into here and it will get sucked in by the magnetic force and it will pull it into the position that it's supposed to be in. So there we go, and that's now right. I have now got an appreciable cogging effect. I can feel that. Certainly couldn't feel it before without them, so there has been some difference in the magnetic flux. let's see how that converts into electricity. We'll put this whole thing back together and get it back up into the breeze. Now, of course, it's super duper important that you get the O-ring on the outside of all 4 of the bolts, otherwise you're going to have leakage problems later on. So once you've made sure that that's right, you'll then just tighten these 4 bolts up evenly, bringing it all down smoothly. Now, you've heard that random noise a few times during this video. Leave a comment down below if you know what it is. I'd love to know how many people know the sound. Do you see how I've used an ordinary extension lead and its plugs to provide the connection to the mast? Everything I do is as simple as it can possibly be. Keep the cost down and avoid complication. Now, down here on the battery box, you'll see that I'm using a cheap, low-cost PWM solar controller. It doesn't really matter whether you use a wind controller or a solar controller. The graphics on this one, of course, show a solar panel and a night time. The little picture of the crescent moon on the left-hand side shows that it thinks it's nighttime and it's not charging. When the wind comes up and it does charge, a little picture of a solar panel appears. But of course, we know it's not a solar panel, we know it's a wind turbine. The only issue with using this type of controller is that it doesn't have a thermal load. It doesn't have a heating element that will absorb extra power from the generator when the batteries are topped right up to their 13.8. So if it was a windy day and it was overcharging, I would have to come out and manually turn off the turbine. I do that with a switch that's to the right of this panel, and that switch is just a simple on-off switch, and it shorts out the terminals and stops the turbine working. Now, although the turbine is turning, because the batteries are already sitting on 13.6, the wind turbine has to get to a fair old lick before it will start charging above 13.6. So we're not getting any charge into the battery today. If later on in the day, or maybe tomorrow, we get a good belt of wind, I'll come out here and shoot a little bit more footage, and I'll show you how many amps are coming into the battery. I'll give you some idea of how effective the thing is at the moment. If not, that's going to be in the next video, which will be as soon as I get some wind and I can show off my new output. In the meantime, if things like this, if fixing things, making things, repairing things and rebuilding things is your style, why not subscribe to the channel and you'll see more of it. If you subscribe, you get a notification so that each time I drop a new video, you will be one of the first to know. And if you liked this video, tickle the old like button as well, because it all helps the algorithms and it helps me get these videos out to the right people. People like you!